We have an example here on free fall motion. A large boulder is ejected vertically upward from a volcano with an initial speed of 40 meters per second. Air resistance is ignored. So here, when we say boulder, large nga or dako nga bato nga gi-eject sa niirap nga volcano. So this time here, so if you'll notice for the four kinematic equations, so mo ang initial position sa boulder and it is being fired 40 meters per second. So pasabot, its initial velocity is given by positive 40 meters per second. So here, at what time after being ejected is the boulder moving 20 meters per second upward. So, upward, so pasabot kay wala pa siya nakaabot ang boulder to maximum height. Okay, it might be na diri nga point. And it's moving 20 meters per second. So this time, its final velocity is given by 20 meters per second. Take note that it's asking for time. Ang naka-nice ni free fall kay ang acceleration is given by 9.8 meters per second squared. So here, which of the equations will you use para makuha nimo ang final, time? So if you'll notice, walay positions or height nga gihatag. So equation nga walay height or position is your equation 1. So using equation 1, for this case, you'll have Vy is equal to Voy minus Gt. So here, transpose to the other side of the equation or subtract Voy both sides of the equation, and then you'll have minus Gt. Divide Gt both sides of the equations. So ang tendency is that your time is simply equal to final velocity, which is 20 meters per second. Okay, final Vy 20 meters per second minus initial 40 meters per second all over negative 9.8 meters per second squared. So ang time would be 2.04. So you'll have 2.04 seconds. Okay, next for letter B, at what time is it moving? Here, 20 meters per second downward. So here, kay 20 meters per second downward na siya, so pasabot kay nakalapas na siya sa maximum height. So here, fired at 40, still, ang initial velocity anin niya mga bata is 40 meters per second, VOY 40. And then here's the maximum height, for example, Y max. So here, pabalik na siya, that would be moving downward. Okay, shall we say na diri 20, negative 20 meters per second. So your final velocity is simply equal to negative 20 meters per second. So it's asking for its time t, pila. So same format kaganina ng equation, kini, your time, take note, is equal to Vy minus Voy over minus G. So you'll have final velocity is negative 20 meters per second minus initial, okay, all over negative 9.8 meters per second squared. Yung negative is simply mag-cancel out sa negative sa denominator. So you'll have 60 divided by 9.8. So you'll have 6.12 seconds. Okay, next for letter C, when is the displacement of the boulder from its initial position 0. So displacement equal to 0 when, so kanus aman, when we say 0 displacement, so pasabot, ang initial o final height must be equal. So pasabot, if it's being fired at this point at a speed of 40 meters per second, niabot siya maximum height. Okay. And then, ibalik. Shall we say, dili lang ako sa tapad ibutang. Okay. So, here. So, you'll have given, napod kay another given, and then this time, you'll have VOY, marig hapon, 40 meters per second. Y sub O, tara kani initial height, 0, final height would be equal to 0. Manang Y minus Y sub O is equal to 0. So it's asking for time. Okay, equation 1, you cannot use this one, walay final velocity. Pero if given, it is understood ngayong final velocity diriya kay negative 40 meters per second. And shall we say nga wala ka nakarealize, ana? Okay, you can use this concept, but then what if you forgot? So, ang tendency, you forgot nga Vy is equal to negative 40. So, you can use equation nga walay final velocity is your equation 2. Okay, so you'll have y minus y sub o is equal to v sub oyt minus 1/2 gt squared. So y sub o is simply equal to 0, and then move or add both sides by this term, or gina-term nilang transpose. So you'll have positive 1/2 gt squared is equal to v sub oy times time t. So na ay mag-cancel out na common, that would be your time. So na nang isa ka time diri. And multiply 2 over g both sides of the equation. So you'll have 2 over g. So ang tendency, you'll have here t is equal to 2 VOY over g. So you'll have 2 times 40 divided by 9.8 meters per second squared. So you'll have 80 divided by 9.8. That would be, you'll have 8.16 seconds. Okay. And next, when is the velocity of the boulder 0? So, kanusa, at what time mahimo ang velocity sa bato nga 0? So, take note nga ma-0 ang final velocity at the maximum height. So, it's asking for time again. Okay, so here, again, I repeat, the boulder is being fired at an initial velocity of 40 meters per second with a final velocity of 0. Okay, at what time siya maabot at this point? So, here it's asking for time. So, ang tendency is that more may given, no? So, kanilang when. So, equation nga walay position, if you'll notice, that would be your equation 1. So, ang tendency is that you'll have Vy is equal to V sub Oy minus gt. So, final velocity is equal to 0. So, you'll have transpose this one. So, you'll have gt is equal to Voy. Divide g both sides of the equation. You'll have then t is equal to 40 divided by 9.8 meters per second squared, which is equal to 4.08. Okay, am I right? 40 divided by 9.8. Yes, that would be 4.08. Take note nga, pwede sa letter C, i-divide rin mo ng 2. Okay, kaya para mag-height, no, ang launching o ang landing point, parihara. So, ang total time of flight sa imong boulder is 8.16. seconds. So, i-divide log 2, that will be 4.08.